All right, thank you everybody for joining. Welcome to the webinar today. It is Beyond the Basics, a deep dive into the 941X corrections hosted by Tax Bandits. We are your webinar host. My name is William Binkley. I'm a product quality representative, and I'm joined today with...
My name is Andrea Jant. I'm the Client Success Manager for Tax Bandits.
Thank you all for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started with the agenda today. And we're going to go over a few different topics related to the 941X, as well as some other notices that might come where you would have to file them, mistakes and how to avoid certain things in dealing with the IRS and doing these correction forms, as well as a little protection overview with a feature that we offer. And at the end, we'll have a little cheat sheet for just to summarize everything that we have. Starting off, we'll go over the 941 notices and how to handle them. So whenever you're dealing with the IRS tax forms and your company, it's not so much a matter of if the IRS is going to reach out, it's a matter of when. They can send a notice for different things. If there's any changes, if there's anything that's not lining up that's been reported, the IRS is most likely going to send you a notice at some point or another. And you want to be proactive with what you're doing to complete that notice. A notice itself is just a formal communication notifying the taxpayer that the IRS has detected a discrepancy or missing information. Sometimes they're just looking for something. It might have been allocated in a different location. So it's not totally scary, but
it can be a little scary.
Yeah. You get a little notice in the mail and it's like, respond now. So some common notices are the CP134B, where something doesn't match. This could be a deposit that was not reported according to like what the IRS has. And another one is the CP259. It's a failure to file, typically with 941s, but it can also apply to other forms in the 94X series. And it's just a notice saying like, hey, we don't have this in our records. And just letting you know that.
So when you receive a notice, or the first thing you want to do is determine why are you receiving the notice. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can be that the taxes were allocated to the wrong quarter. Mm-hmm. It also could be that your deposits and your withholdings don't match, or they're unclaimed, or you've posted your payments under the wrong EIN. If you have a notice, you want to, first of all, make sure that you understand exactly what the notice is stating. Yep. Take the notice and compare it to your records. If it's telling you that the payment was posted to EIN 12345, make sure that is your EIN number and you didn't transpose numbers at some point. We do, like if you have a Tax Bandits account, we have a tax notice section. We assist with multiple tax notices, so you can always go there and see if the notice you received is one that we support. And we're always adding more notices. So if you check it this quarter and maybe you don't see that notice there, but you get one in the future, check again, because it might be that we've added it.
Yeah. And feel free to let us know as well. Mm-hmm. Send it into our support team so we can ensure that we're enhancing that. Yeah. For other filers. Another feature that we offer is Protection Plus. It's a tax resolution and identity theft restoration service that works exclusively through tax software platforms and tax professionals. We offer the Bandit Commitment, which is your forms are going to be covered and we're going to help you in case of any notice or any communication from the IRS. You can reach out to our support team, and Protection Plus adds another layer of protection in dealing with the IRS. And you want to talk a little more about that?
Yeah, so if you've worked with Tax Bandits in the past, you know that a while back, we did roll out a bandit commitment. We're committed to our clients, and part of that commitment is if there's an error and you need to file a correction form, such as a W-2 or a 1099-C, you can file that form at no charge if the original form was filed with us. So just to strengthen the bandit commitment, we've added Protection Plus. Any 941 filed on January 1st, 2026 and forward is protected by this Protection Plus product. And you can just give us a call. We'll talk you through the next steps, where to send your notice and get it handled.
And so with dealing with 941s and forms that might need corrections, we've got the 941X correction process. So you don't always have to wait to receive a notice from the IRS in order to start the correction. If you notice something, you want to be proactive about it, and it's definitely better to do that before the IRS notices and sends you some kind of notice, because there might be penalties and fines later that you definitely don't want.
Yeah, anyone can file. Anyone that files a 941 can also file a 941X if it's needed. And like William said, you should file it as soon as you discover that you've made an error. There's not a cutoff for filing a correction. If you want to file the correction form with Tax Bandits, we support the current year and 2 years prior.
And not only with that, with the 941X corrections don't always correct like everything within the original filing.
Yeah.
The 941X specifically is mainly for correcting liability information. So if it was like an address or like an incorrect EIN and the IRS just didn't reject it when scanning and processing the 941, this isn't necessarily for that. This is more for liability if you had overreported or underreported wages or anything that was withheld. Some notices might also say that you might have a tax credit that wasn't allocated in a previous 941, so you might have to file a 941X for that. And it's pretty much just the IRS's way of making sure that all the information matches up. So anybody who has a mistake within the liability, that would be covered. That could help. The 941X correction is what's used to kind of update that and let the IRS know what's going on. And we have a question. Are we saying that Tax Bandits handles the notice? Not us directly. With Protection Plus, it's just another layer. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a slide on that actually, so we'll give you more information about that in a minute. But
Yeah.
We have partnered with Protection Plus to get you the help you need to address some of those tax notices.
Like Andrea was saying, we'll go a little more in depth into that process a little later in the slides. But with the 941X, when it's filed, like we were saying, you should file it as soon as you discover an error if you've noticed it. But otherwise, the IRS, if you receive a notice, it'll usually say to file a 941X, depending on what the IRS has caught with your filings.
So the 941X correction process, Part 1, you're going to indicate if you underreported or overreported. Part 2, there are some certifications that the IRS is asking you to answer, some certification questions. Basically, if you underreported and you're reporting the missing figures now, if you've already submitted your W-2s, you're going to certify that you're going to do W-2Cs because you want everything to balance.
Mm-hmm.
Part 3, under correction, this is where you're entering your actual corrections, and there's a column for what was originally reported and then a column for what should have been reported. There are a lot of different sections there. If a certain line doesn't apply to your situation, you're just going to leave that blank and move on. The form also gives you a nice little area where you can explain your corrections, like I had a terminated employee, then I forgot to add their wages on my 941. This is where you would put that information. Part 5, you're basically going to sign the form, and then a pop-up's going to appear, and it's going to ask you if you need to include a Schedule B.
One thing to note with the Schedule B as well, you wouldn't typically do like a 941X correction just to correct a Schedule B.
Right.
A lot of the times the IRS is looking strictly just at the liability. If there was something that needed to be changed on the Schedule B and the liability was affecting that, then you can update the Schedule B to have a corrected one. But just want to make that distinction because that's a pretty common idea when people go into the corrections, thinking that they can just use it just to correct that.
So if when you file the 941X and the filing of that form is going to indicate that you are required to pay additional taxes, you're on the form, you're going to tell how you're going to pay those taxes, whether you're going to do it through EFTPS, debit or credit card, or check or money order. Obviously, you want to make sure the form is signed, and then you're going to pay and transmit the form.
And with that, it's not just about if there are additional taxes, but any overpayments that might have been done, where if you are getting any kind of credit to your account with the IRS, they'll want to see that so you can either claim it as a refund or apply it to a future filing to lower your liability on a future 941.
So common mistakes, terminated employees, don't forget to include the wages and withholdings for terminated employees. Even if you had an employee that you only gave them one paycheck, don't forget about them. They need to be on that 941. I know sometimes you want to forget about terminated employees, but make sure you don't forget about their wages and their withholdings. Mismatched deposits, it could be that the deposit was made during the quarter, but it doesn't match what was reported on the 941. Same with incorrect tax allocations. Your taxes are allocated to the wrong quarter. There can also be withholding discrepancies where there will be a mismatch between the withholdings reported and the actual withholdings. And then EIN errors. Make sure that the payments are posted to the correct EIN number.
And then going with the mismatched deposits, the correction itself also is not just used, like if you had made the payments, you wouldn't just do a correction to say like you made the payments, because it's not, it's looking at balancing the liabilities. With mismatched deposits, like you might receive a notice, but you're more likely to receive a notice kind of saying like, hey, we noticed that this wasn't reported. In a situation like that, you can even reach out to the IRS and say like, hey, I made a deposit but forgot to include it on the filing. Corrections a lot of times are mainly just looking at the liability, and I mean the IRS is going to take your money any way they can.
Yeah,
they're happy to do that, and they just want to being proactive about communicating with them, and even sending them like a formal letter or some other form of communication was a good way to kind of also mitigate any notices you might receive. We've got another question that's come in. Does the IRS respond directly to a 941X? Let's see.
Over-reported payroll, completed a 941X, and afterwards received a demand letter for the tax payment as though the 940X had not been submitted.
All right.
Did you check the date on the demand letter? Was it dated after the date on your 941X?
A lot of times with these, like when they're transmitted, unfortunately with the IRS, sometimes like no news is good news. But if they're reaching out about a letter for the tax payment, be better to kind of like review your records and see like if that payment had been made or not. If you can show where that had been made, usually they're kind of okay. It's just trying to figure out like where that money might have been, or like where that overpayment is. Let's see, 2 weeks after the 941X was filed.
Was the 941X accepted? Because it almost sounds like it was just a timing instance where they were working on the 941X, but that demand letter was going out or being processed around the same time.
The IRS does have a habit of doing that sometimes.
I'm not sure that one department clearly communicates with another, or like maybe the demand letters are handled by a different department than the department that handles the 941s and 941X filings. But yeah, there should be a phone number on that letter, and I would definitely give them a call. If maybe you can fax them a copy of your 941X if you electronically filed it.
And see, another question, repeat the process for a correction that's required just on the Schedule B. How is that corrected? Yeah, so in terms of correcting a Schedule B, you just have to know if the liability, a big part of it is going to be the liability, because with a 941X correction, you're correcting the liability and withholdings and information that was originally reported on the 941. If you have a Schedule B included in that, and those liabilities might have affected the Schedule B, that's when you would kind of use the 941X, fill out the Schedule B with it, and transmit it. If there's anything like maybe the payment was put in a wrong date, and you're just trying to correct that, typically you would just reach out to the IRS and let them know. I believe you can even just send an amended Schedule B on paper, but just use, like, if you're using the 941X to try to just amend the Schedule B, that wouldn't really, they wouldn't really accept that. Because if you're sending it with the correction, they're trying to match the liabilities with that. Yeah. Usually with that, if you believe you can send an updated Schedule B, just fill it out and send it to the IRS. And I'll look into that a little further if there's like a specific location, and we can post that maybe later. But you can also reach out to our support team. We'll have some more information about that at the end, and how to get in contact, and we can kind of help you navigate that a little better and give you a more secure response and concrete process. All right. Continuing on, this is the part where we're getting a little more into the Protection Plus overview and the steps of what you can do when reaching out to tax bandits in case you get a notice. Andrea?
So Protection Plus is a separate entity. It's not part of tax bandits. We are partnering with them. So if you receive a letter, the first thing you're going to do is call us. The support number's 704-684-4758. And we're going to pull up your tax bandits account and we're going to log that notice. We're going to confirm that the filing that is associated with the notice is covered under Protection Plus. So that would be any filing that you completed from January 1st, 2026 until forever, I guess, going forward from January 1st. at that point, we've logged everything within your Tax Bandits account, and then you're going to call Protection Plus. The phone number that on file for them is 336-290-7949. They're actually going to walk you through the tax resolution process. I'm sure that they're going to have you get that notice to them. At that point, they'll tell you what the next steps will be and when you can expect to have a resolution.
Part of that is they reach out to the IRS
Yeah.
and kind of help out with that and get,
So the thing is, anybody that receives a tax notice could call Protection Plus and say, hey, I got this notice and I want to hire you to take care of it. The advantage of us partnering with them is that you're not paying for their service. If you filed the notice with Tax Bandits, or filed the form, not the notice, if you filed the form with Tax Bandits, but you've received the notice regarding that form, which are your 941s filed January 1st or after, then we are covering the charge with Protection Plus.
And then we've got a little cheat sheet here. This is just to kind of summarize everything that we've discussed. But if you've got any confusing notices, we do offer a notice management feature within Tax Bandits where you can upload the notice. And like Andrea was saying, if there's one that we don't currently have or support, you can reach out to our support team and let us know so we can work on improving that. The cost of corrections, with our Bandit commitment, we have no cost corrections. If you file a 941 with us, you can do a 941X at no charge. Uncertainty about filing requirements. We have a live support team. We're located here in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. We're more than happy to help you out. We also post a lot of content and try to inform everybody about the forms that we offer, anything going on with the IRS, notices, features, other forms, as well as how to transmit, work on those forms. We have a lot of information. And if you're lacking tax resolution assistance, we're partnered with Protection Plus. You can reach out to them and they can help with notices. Reach out to us and we can get you in contact with them if you filed through Tax Bandits. And yeah.
And with the notice management section, like if you do receive a notice and you're a little confused as to why you received the notice, and maybe it doesn't have to be a 941 notice. It could be a W-2 or a 1099. Each IRS letter has a number on it. Like we mentioned the CP 259 earlier, but each notice has its own identifying number. And within that notice management section, we've got a list of the notices that we're currently supporting, and it'll give you a little definition of what the notice means. I think it gives you a couple of scenarios as to why you may have received it, and it'll kind of tell you what your next steps would be. So that would kind of get you started in the resolution process. And of course, you can always call us or email us or chat with us if you have additional questions as well.
At this time, we will have a Q&A session. You can put your questions in the chat and we'll get to a few of them. And yeah, at this time, go ahead and type below. Or if you just want to say hi, you can always do that too. Let us know where you're from. While we're waiting on some questions though, we can just kind of recap everything that we discussed. Notices, a lot of times with the IRS, they're just trying to figure out where something is and where money is moving to and from, or where any kind of like payments that belong to them or any liability. They're just trying to make sure all the numbers line up. So if you get a notice, not the end of the world. And a lot of times the notices will even tell you how to resolve it or what you need to resolve it. But that initial shock of getting IRS notice.
Nobody wants to see the return address IRS on a letter in their mailbox.
Yeah. They're not always the most communicative, and it's just unfortunately one of those no news is good news. So if you send something and you don't hear anything back, congrats. Let's see. We've got a question coming in. What if I realized I have errors from multiple quarters? How do I correct this?
You have to correct each quarter.
Mhm.
So you would, if you made a mistake on Q3 2025, Q4 2025, and Q1 2026, you're going to file a 941X for each of those quarters.
Mhm. And the 941 and 941Xs are for a specific tax period. All of the forms will have tax periods. For example, there's a 944, which is like an annual tax period, whereas a 941 is quarterly. So you would just file the form that you're correcting, in this case, the 941, do a 941X for those quarters where you would have any errors. Good question.
How many quarters do you need to correct? Oh, well. Must be a lot. Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
You can get that done in an afternoon.
Yeah.
I've got faith in you, Ken.
No, and like we said earlier with tax bandits, you can do that for the current tax year and tax period, and we also support 2 years prior for 941 corrections, 941X.
Sometimes we get calls too where companies have changed payroll companies mid-quarter, and either the prior company ends up filing a 941 at the end of the quarter, so then the current company has filed one too, but it's rejected. So then it gets kind of messy. You've got to determine which filing should have been accepted, and then the one that should not have been accepted will need to be voided. And a lot of times your payroll company won't cover that. So that's just another example of a reason why a 941X may be required.
Also, don't forget with the notices, and it could just be a timing thing with the IRS, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll send the notice after you've already done the correction, and they just, because it was already sent. That's pretty much it.
When you say 2 years prior, does that mean even if the 941 was not filed through tax bandits?
Yes. With a 941X, you can do corrections if you did not file the original 941 with tax bandits. All right. But I think that's mainly it for now. We'll go ahead and proceed on. If you have any questions if anything else that has not been answered, or if anything comes up after, you can reach out to our support team, and we'll be more than happy to help you. The number and email are posted right here on our slides, 704-684-4751, or you can email us at support@taxbandits. We also do a live chat as well. And thank you so much for joining us today. We post pretty regularly, blogs, updates. We'll have future webinars, and you can always catch us on social media, YouTube. YouTube is where we typically post the webinars and such. So if you weren't able to join, or if you want to revisit this, it'll be posted shortly.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good day.